Welcome, all you sinners and sodomites, to episode 52 of Bible Stories for Atheists. I'm Josh.
I'm Linz.
And we are your guides to the expertly aired stories, literally, literarily littering the Bible. And we are covering 1 Samuel, chapters 4 through 7 today.
Back in the Samuel.
Back into
Although
Samuel.
He's mostly absent in these chapters, except for the very end.
Yeah, he shows up towards the end.
Yep.
We're wrapping up the story of Eli and his kids. Yeah. And it's a lot of the Ark of the Covenant. This is like, if you're interested in the Ark of the Covenant, this is probably some of the most foundational stories about the Ark of the Covenant.
Right.
Like the lore around
that
it.
are outside of like the creation.
Yeah, when they built it. Yep. We get into this pretty significant error that is found in some of the translations of the Bible.
Right. Mistranslations, different translations, bad source material.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't even say this when we were in the episode, but I just kind of stumbled across that.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't intending to like find that error.
Well,
makes you wonder like how many of those I just end up blowing over, and I just didn't even realize it. Yeah.
It just so happened that this one made like almost zero sense to the rest of the story, that like you have to wonder about it.
Right.
When you hear it and you're like, what?
But if I was reading the NIV version,
you wouldn't have.
I probably wouldn't have even looked it up. Well, it's way more metal, and it fits with what you're reading.
Well, and it fits with what
There's nothing to like have to look up
right.
about it, really.
And it fits with what you know about the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
Based on popular culture.
Right. Yeah.
Although you probably wouldn't have looked up, because it doesn't. Like the thing we're talking about, it doesn't say that that's what happens. It just says that there are deaths.
Right. Just out of nowhere.
Right.
For no apparent reason.
Right.
Yeah.
So we probably wouldn't even, although maybe if we did read that version and you said that, I probably would have been like, oh, I bet it happened like it did in Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I don't know. I would not have thought of it. I was really surprised when I saw that, because I was like, oh, I'm glad we see where that comes from, where that story of the Ark comes from.
Yeah.
So you'll have fun getting to that.
Fun.
So strap in and strap on for episode 52, Tumors of the Lost Ark. I didn't play the beginning of the 50th episode. So I
hold on, let me get on my
glad that
out.
was you.
I mean, I can take it out.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
If to know me is to know my gas.
But now I have your consent on tape. We're recording this with tape.
Everyone's just lucky it wasn't a fart.
Yeah. This time. Until I edit that in.
A fart?
Yeah.
No.
And then you're like, let me get through all my burps. All my throat farts.
Throat farts. Yep. Tiny burps and throat farts.
Previously on BSFA, we had the introduction to Samuel.
Yep.
Who was a Nazarite from birth.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that.
Given up by his named mother.
Yes.
Because she was so sad because her sister wife kept making fun of her and making her feel bad.
Look who doesn't have any children.
That her womb was closed by the Lord.
I'm Hannah. My womb is closed. Surprised we didn't get into that. Like, how was she making fun of her?
Yeah,
you know?
probably exactly like that.
Yeah.
And she got so mad.
Look at me with my tight vagina.
So upset by it that she promised her firstborn to the Lord.
Yes, to give him up for life as a Nazarite.
Much like the villain from Many childhood fairy tales.
Yeah. It's a good thing he didn't want to just be a stoner or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Children are always big what you expect them to be, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. They never rebel against your plans for them.
They never try and steal the fat from the Lord.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we also heard about Eli's shitty sons, Hophni and Phinehas.
Yes.
They were corrupt, but they didn't seem to have a choice. God said that they
needed to be awful so that he could kill them.
Yeah, because he wanted to kill them, and he was going to.
Very circular reasoning on that one.
Yep, and he said
wanted to kill them because they were shitty and they were stealing from him, but they wouldn't let them get better because he wanted to kill them. But he wanted to kill them because they were shitty.
Right. Never would think that you would have a logical fallacy in the Bible. And God said that they were going to die at the same time.
By the sword.
By the sword. Yeah.
Yes. And
by the sword.
Their dad was going to end up crying his eyes out.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand until you talked about him starting to go blind that meant actually crying his eyes out.
Right. Yeah.
Crying so much that his eyes broke.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of crying because of recent events in our family. And my eyes still function perfectly fine.
They have not fallen out.
They have not fallen out.
Hot potato. In those days, the Philistines mustered for war against Israel, and Israel went out to battle against them. The Philistines drew up in line against Israel, and when the battle was joined, Israel was defeated by the Philistines. When the troops came to the camp, the elders of Israel said, "Why has the Lord put us to rout today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord here from Shiloh, so that he may come among us and save us from the power of our enemies." So the people sent to Shiloh and brought from there the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned on the cherubim. The two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. When the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all Israel gave a mighty shout, so that the earth resounded. When the Philistines heard the noise of the shouting, they said, "What does this great shouting in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" When they learned that the ark of the Lord had come to the camp, the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "Gods have come into the camp." They also said, "Woe to us! For nothing like this has happened before. Woe to us! Who can deliver us from the power of these mighty gods? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with every sort of plague in the wilderness. Take courage and be men, O Philistines, in order not to become slaves to the Hebrews as they have been to you. Be men and fight." So the Philistines fought. Israel was defeated, and they fled, everyone to his home. There was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died.
So, I mean, but the Philistines have dealt with this before.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a guy that was given the strength of God, fighting against them. He said
killed a shitload of them with the jawbone of a donkey.
Yeah, set all of their fields on fire, and also all of the other judges.
Right.
That fought. I mean, I know each time it wasn't the Philistines, but I'm pretty sure a couple times it was.
It seems like you're correct about that. Like, I know Samson was. I feel like another one in there probably was too.
Right. I guess the Philistines are just lucky that there weren't any walls around for them to shout down, since they all shouted in unison.
Yeah.
Because historically speaking, that should have brought all of the walls in the surrounding area down.
Right. Just like Jericho.
Yeah. Maybe it's because they didn't walk circls around it first.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they trusted fucking Tweedledee and Tweedledum to bring the GodBox.
To bring the GodBox. Yeah. It makes it sound like that's where God is stored.
It feels like that's where God is stored.
Kind of, yeah.
Because unless
God
it's there,
with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the GodBox.
Right.
What's in the box? It's God.
God is in the box.
Like Gwyneth Paltrow said.
We all know that Gwyneth Paltrow's head is God.
I mean, I think so. But
I'm sorry, goop. It's goop.
A whole lot of fucking good it did them.
Yeah, and then they lose.
Well, and they all run back to their houses.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Philistines steal the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah.
And then it's going to be like not until Nazi time when Indiana Jones steals it back.
Oh, no, they get it back.
Do they? Okay.
They do. No, that happens when it's in theory lost is the second time the Jewish people go into exile. So that was when the Assyrians or the Babylonians, whichever one it was, that take out the southern kingdom of Judah. That's when, in theory, the
Ark is lost.
The Ark is lost.
Forever.
Right.
Yeah.
But that being said, nobody seemed to care about mentioning it when they did get to have Israel back when they were given it. There's no mention of the Ark of the Covenant at that point.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance that the Ark of the Covenant was just an invention by Ezra, who organized Judaism after being allowed back into Israel. So
gotcha.
Anyway.
So they fled, the box got stolen, the God box got stolen, and then the two brothers just died.
Yes.
I assume that they were murdered.
In theory, yeah, but they don't really say how they're killed.
Their essences were attached to the God box, and when it got stolen, they just died.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they just laid down and died.
It could be the way things go. That wouldn't be too surprising.
Yeah.
God did say he wanted to kill them, so
that
why
is
not?
True.
Why not just boom, dead.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
A man of Benjamin ran from the battle line and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes torn and with earth upon his head. When he arrived, Eli was sitting upon his seat by the road watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. When the man came into the city, he told the news. All the city cried out. When Eli heard the sound of the outcry, he said, "What is this uproar?" Then the man came quickly and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were set so that he could not see. The man said to Eli, "I have just come from the battle. I fled the battle today." He said, "How did it go, my son?" The messenger replied, "Israel has fled before the Philistines, and there has also been a great slaughter among the troops. Your two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured." When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell over backward from his seat by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died, for he was an old man and heavy. He had judged Israel 40 years.
Oh, he was a judge.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
It says he had judged Israel. So I guess apparently he's a judge.
All right.
Yeah. And they're going to say the same thing about Samuel, him judging.
Yeah. I guess maybe that just becomes a term they use. I have just fled the battle. Oh, yeah? How's it going?
Yeah.
I fled the battle.
Yeah.
Not great. Your box is gone and your sons are dead. The fucking box is gone.
Whoa.
Oh,
snap.
My old bones and my fat have killed me. It's all that God fat that I ate. It's revenge from God. Ugh.
Long death scene.
Yeah.
What a way to end a 40-year career.
40? He was 98.
Yeah, but he judged Israel 40 years.
Oh.
So he started when he was 58.
Maybe that's when he became like the high
priest or
priesty
something.
Person.
Yeah.
I would imagine he started his priestly adventure well before that.
Right. Started as like a clerk or something. Yeah. An altar boy.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a passage then about Phinehas's wife. So Eli's daughter-in-law dying in childbirth. It sounds like she dies, at least. It's not super clear, but it sounds like she dies in childbirth. And she named her son Ichabod, meaning the glory has departed from Israel.
It's a terrible name for a child.
Yeah. Ichabod comes up again, but like only in reference to it. Ichabod was like this person's brother, and it's not like very significant. I just thought it was interesting. Like, oh, is that where this name comes from?
How old do you think Eli's sons were
When they died?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, old enough to obviously have their own children.
I'm thinking they're pretty old. If he was 98.
If he's 98, then probably.
Like
they're at least in their 60s.
Right.
You know?
And she's having a baby?
Right.
So either she's having
which
old.
Maybe he started late too. Like Jake, or I think Abraham was like 60 when
maybe
his wife first.
But so his wife is probably like a lot younger than him though, right?
Are you talking Phineas's wife?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, she's not a 60-year-old lady having a baby.
Probably.
That only happens like a couple times in the Bible.
Yeah. It definitely happens in the Bible.
Yeah. John the Baptist's mom was like 102 or some bullshit like that.
Might have been. I can't remember her being old, but
I'm pretty sure she was old.
Yeah. I think I do remember something about Nicodemus being pretty old.
Yeah. I think Samson's mom was pretty old too.
Maybe.
But you know, when they
the barren women typically are, you know.
When they refer to women as being old, like we got to take that with a grain of salt too, because like women back then and even today, women are considered old like way earlier than men are.
Yeah, like anybody after 25.
I mean, fuck, they call if you get pregnant after 35, it's a geriatric pregnancy.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, technically that's just the medical term because the risks of childbirth go way up after that age, but
yeah. And if you're 35, you're way too old to date Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes, this is true.
You're a geriatric dating experience for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is not swiping right on you.
No. I really wonder when you're that famous, what you do for meeting women. Like, you know,
I think you just put your dick out there and somebody grabs onto it.
You literally just fish with it.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So Eli's dead, and
Eli's dead.
The boys are dead.
And the boys are dead.
But God said, is that literally he was just leaving him alive long enough to know that his sons had died?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess, because, God said he was the only one that he was going to keep alive, and then he was going to cry his eyes out at all the people dying and stuff. But, yeah.
He didn't. He died pretty soon after he found out.
Right. But what I do think is funny, too, is he doesn't die because, oh, my God, my sons are dead. It's because the ark was captured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when you lend somebody, like, the most expensive thing you have, or like your car.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, God. Okay, fine. You can use it. Be very careful.
Right.
And then they come back with like a giant dent in the side of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened in this situation. He's sitting outside waiting for it to come back.
Kind of. I would say it's more like then they got into a really bad car accident with it.
Yeah.
And were killed. And you were like, but how's the car? And then when they say you got dinged, you're like, my heart. I've been killed by my fat.
I do think it was funny that they added that at the end.
Yeah, that he was heavy.
It was like, they're not going to believe that he just fell over and broke his neck. We have to put that he was old and fat.
No, it's not like Judas. Tried to hang himself, then he fell and burst open suddenly. You know, it's like they actually did a pretty good job of like covering the story. Then, he was heavy. Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure 98 is like fine. You don't need to like.
Yeah, nobody's asking how did they die when they died at 98.
No,
he broke his neck.
Oh, you mean his bones were old and brittle?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he was heavy, apparently. I don't think I've never seen a 98-year-old person who was heavy.
No, usually by then even if they lived their whole life heavy, by the time they hit 98, they're like
withered.
Yeah. Which is why I'm pulling a Harold and Maude and just dying at 80.
Right. Yeah.
Whether I'm ready or not.
Yeah. No kidding. Christians will stop you from that, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
When the Philistines captured the Ark of God, they brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Then the Philistines took the Ark of God and brought it into the house of Dagon and placed it beside Dagon. When the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, there was Dagon, fallen on his face to the ground before the Ark of the Lord. So they took Dagon and put him back in his place. But when they rose early on the next morning, Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the Ark of the Lord, and the head of Dagon and both his hands were lying cut off upon the threshold. Only the trunk of Dagon was left to him. This is why the priests of Dagon and all who enter the house of Dagon do not step on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day.
Okay, wait, sorry. Explain this to me again. I didn't hardly understand any of that. Dagon is a person.
Dagon is a god. Is supposedly a god. Yep.
So when they said Dagon was face down, they probably meant like an idol.
Statue.
Okay.
Yep.
I was like,
yep.
Who is this person they have to keep propping back up? Yeah. And then his hands are gone.
And his head.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So Dagon, apparently there's no extra biblical sources confirming that the Philistines worshipped Dagon, but he was quite a popular deity around Mesopotamia and Samaria based on how many people had names derived from his. And yeah, I think this was likely a statue.
They brought another god's relic into the house of another god.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not even religious, and I feel like that's not a good idea.
I mean, let's just be realistic here.
Just in case.
Yeah. I mean, that's just like trying to mix wine and beer.
Ew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
Or wine and liquor. You definitely don't want to do wine and beer, I feel like.
Yeah. You mean like in the same glass?
Well, I wasn't meaning that, but sure.
I feel like, I would
drinking both.
Oh,
wine
I would
and
drink
beer at the same
both.
time. What is it? Liquor and beer? You're not supposed to do?
Liquor and beer. Wine before liquor. No, beer before. What is it? Beer before liquor, never been sicker. Liquor before beer, and you're in the clear.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the order you drink them in.
Mm.
Notice how there's nothing said about wine.
Yeah. And wine is fine all the time.
Wine is fine all the time, especially in church.
Yeah.
Where it's made into the blood of Christ.
Yeah. And then you drink his blood.
Jesus blood.
Jesus blood. The hand of the Lord was heavy upon the people of Ashdod, and he terrified and struck them with tumors, both in Ashdod and in its territory. And when the inhabitants of Ashdod saw how things were, they said, "The ark of the God of Israel must not remain with us, for his hand is heavy on us and on our god Dagon." So they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, "What shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel?" The inhabitants of Gath replied, "Let the ark of God be moved on to us." So they moved the ark of the God of Israel to Gath. But after they had brought it to Gath, the hand of the Lord was against the city, causing a very great panic. He struck the inhabitants of the city, both young and old, so that tumors broke out on them. So they sent the ark of the God of Israel to Ekron. But when the ark of God came to Ekron, the people of Ekron cried out, "Why have they brought around to us the ark of the God of Israel to kill us and our people?" They sent therefore and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, "Send away the ark of the God of Israel and let it return to its own place, that it may not kill us and our people." For there was a deathly panic throughout the whole city. The hand of God was very heavy there. Those who did not die were stricken with tumors, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. Like, what I don't understand is why not just have an angel come down, pick up the ark, and return it?
Right.
Why kill all these people?
Or use God
magic?
Teleportation.
Yeah. Just beam it over
Yeah.
That's what the teleporter sounds.
So the GodBox causes cancer.
Causes tumors. Yeah.
Cancer.
I would guess they would be cancerous.
I mean, what else? Yeah.
Could be full of Skittles for all I know.
It sounds like a Skittles, something they would do in a Skittles commercial. Those commercials are fucking weird.
Tumor, the rainbow.
Terrible. Pops open and
never
Skittles
gonna get a Skittles. Never gonna get a Skittles sponsorship.
Or we're gonna see this commercial on fucking YouTube in a year.
Yeah.
Sue somebody. Trademark Bible Stories for Atheists. Cover.
Trademarking Skittles tumors.
I don't know why they just wouldn't have been like, okay, but this needs to go.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine they didn't try to destroy it, but if they had, it probably wouldn't have gone well for them.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't mention them trying to destroy it or anything.
Right.
Yeah. I can't remember what it's made out of. Like if it's actually made out of wood or if it's just all gold. Yeah.
I feel like it seemed like it was very heavy. They needed a ton of people to carry it all the time. I can't remember. The only time I've like actually visually seen artist rendition of the Ark of Covenant is in
Indiana Jones.
And it seemed pretty big and heavy.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what it was made of. We just like sent it off to this other. We don't want to hear anymore. Send it over here. And they're like, hey.
Yeah.
What? Guys?
We've got too many tumors. Let's send it to this other city.
Yeah.
They can take some tumors.
We don't want it. You should send it back. It clearly wants to go back to where it's from.
Yeah.
It clearly does. I don't know why we're still worshiping this other god when it's very apparent that this one exists and he hates us.
Yeah.
We should probably be doing things to make him happy.
Right. Yeah. Makes you wonder if they were like trying to worship God and they're like, well, we got the ark, so now we're worshiping you. And it's like, but you just keep giving us tumors.
Yeah.
You're not my chosen people.
It's like an ancient cell phone.
Yeah.
It just causes cancer.
Yeah. Well, this is why the ancient aliens people think the Ark of the Covenant was actually from like an alien and it was nuclear powered and
because it caused some tumors in these people.
Yeah.
Says a book about something that probably didn't happen because I don't know. There should be a way to go back and see if that many people actually died from tumors.
Yeah. I mean, it says the book that had the talking snake and the talking donkey, you know.
I would imagine like you would like as an archaeologist, somebody would have been able to determine like,
a bunch of people died of tumors.
Well, around the same time, too. Like, there should be, like, mass graves.
Yeah.
Because cremation was not a thing back then.
Yeah, I wonder when cremation really started. It seems like they would have had cremation.
No. But I can go get my book about dead bodies and tell you.
Like, I mean, it's not that hard to be like, oh, let's burn the bodies, you know?
Yeah. I guess, I mean, I would
have been disrespectful or something.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, maybe they did burn the bodies. I'm thinking more of like the actual cremation where you like save the ashes and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah.
It was definitely not something they did back then.
No, that's just one more thing to take care of.
Right. But they would have had to, especially if they were like sick people back then. I mean, just think about like the plagues and stuff where they would bury like the mass graves of bodies and they would have to get them out of the city as soon as possible. So they would.
If it's spreading disease, they probably burned.
Right.
Yeah. Or at least that would have been the smart thing to do. But we are thousands of years from them realizing that germs are a thing.
Right.
Too, you know?
Right. And did they have, I don't know how hot a fire has to be and how long it has to burn to be able to burn a body with bones.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I would imagine they would be able to figure that out because they would have had like people who were like metal workers and stuff like that who had to work with high temperatures. But
sure.
I don't know.
You have to so crematoriums have to keep like their fires going constantly so that they're always hot enough to burn a body because it takes a while to get a fire up to like the temperature it needs to be.
Lindsay just read a book about about how would you describe it? It was like all things death.
It was about, but specifically about dead bodies.
Like how
dead human bodies. And not necessarily just dead human
bodies. Was
it
called Stiff?
Stiff, yeah, by Mary Roach. Very good book if you're into the macabre.
Yeah.
In like a witty and an informative sort of way.
Jeez, Linz. Did you just get into a fight?
I did. My enemies keep defeating me and I don't know what to do about it. If only there was some sort of product or service to help me slaughter those who rise against me and unleash a holy terror upon their lands.
Well, you're in luck because now there's GodBox.
GodBox? What the fuck is that?
GodBox is your own personal Ark of the Covenant. Handcrafted by the tiny fingers of Chinese factory children and shipped directly to your front door.
Ark of the Covenant? Doesn't that just kill Nazis?
Actually, for some reason, Nazis are some of our main customers these days.
This is exactly what I need. A secret weapon to vanquish my foes and guarantee my victory.
No, I didn't say guaranteed. Everyone heard it. You aren't guaranteed to win.
What do you mean? I thought the whole point of having a GodBox was to defeat your enemies.
Well, yeah, until it doesn't.
So sometimes, even though I have a GodBox, I can still be defeated?
Sure. And you'll want to be careful not to have your GodBox stolen by your enemies.
They can steal it? What's the point of this thing?
Well, for an extra fee, you can have theft prevention measures installed.
What is that?
If your GodBox is stolen, it becomes radioactive and summons plague-infested mice.
Jesus, I wanted to defeat my enemies, not give them thyroid cancer and the hantavirus.
Well, that's how our loving God fights his battles.
Can I put things in my GodBox?
Yeah, if you want to have your fucking face melted off.
What is the point of this thing?
To demonstrate God's glory. When it works, at least.
Use promo code BSFA at checkout to get 10% larger tumors.
GodBox is only available in the continental United States, the only country to put a Nazi-killing GodBox in a warehouse instead of using it to end World War II. Yay? We won? The Ark of the Lord was in the country of the Philistines 7 months. Then the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners and said, "What shall we do with the Ark of the Lord? Tell us what we should send with it to its place." They said, "If you send away the Ark of the God of Israel, do not send it empty, but by all means return it with a guilt offering. Then you will be healed and forgiven. Will not his hand then turn from you?" And they said, "What is the guilt offering that we shall send to him?" They answered, 5 gold tumors and 5 gold mice, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines. For the same plague was upon all of you and upon your lords. So you must make images of your tumors and images of your mice that ravaged the land and give glory to the God of Israel. Perhaps he will lighten his hand on you and your gods and your land. Why should you harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts? After he made fools of them, did they not let the people go, and they departed? Now then, get ready a new cart and 2 milk cows that have never borne a yoke, and yoke the cows to the cart, but take their calves home, away from them. Take the Ark of the Lord and place it on the cart, and put in a box at its side the figures of gold that you are sending to him as a guilt offering. Then send it off, and let it go its way, and watch. If it goes up the way of its own land, then it is he who has done this great harm. But if not, then we shall know that it is not his hand that struck us. It happened to us by chance." The men did so. They took 2 milk cows and yoked them to the cart and shut up their calves at home. They put the Ark of the Lord on the cart and the box with the gold mice and the images of their tumors. The cows went straight in the direction of Beth Shemesh along one highway. They turned neither to the right nor to the left, and the lords of the Philistines went after them as far as the border of Beth Shemesh. So yeah, gold tumors.
At first, when you mentioned it, I was like, so they're going to cut off tumors and take mice and dip them in gold.
Mm.
And I was like, that's terrible. But then it sounds like it's just an artisan is making figures.
I guess. Yeah. I
Of
don't know
mice
what that would look
and
like.
tumors?
It seems like, wouldn't that just be like a lump?
Yeah.
You know?
Just lumps of gold.
Just lumps of gold.
Weird.
Probably didn't even do anything. Just was like, there,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The people they asked on what they should do
The diviners.
definitely sounded like they were just making it up as they were going along.
Much like everybody else who works in religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sending them a guilt offering of gold tumors and mice for
Yeah.
some reason.
So like they never really say it, but you would take from this that one of the things God is doing to them is sending a bunch of mice that are probably plague ridden.
Oh, they had the plague.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But really it's the fleas on the mice.
Yeah.
Were
So really they should be sending some gold fleas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just get litter.
And then in a very sort of like, this is how you figure out if somebody's a witch.
Yeah.
Like, if it floats, it's a witch. If it doesn't float and it dies, she's not a witch.
Right.
Like, if the cows go straight, it was God. If the cows don't go straight, something else is happening.
Right. One thing I thought was interesting about this is that it's not actually milk cows, at least in the translation I'm reading. It's milch cows.
Milch cows?
MILCH. And
Is it pronounced milk?
I believe it's milk cows.
Yeah.
So I pronounced it milk, but
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any significance to it. I've never seen anybody.
You didn't look up the word milk?
I think I did, and if I remember right, it was just milk. You know,
Well, that makes
cows
sense.
for milking. But
I feel like K's are not, I mean, if we think about alphabets, right? I mean, honestly, there's a lot of words that are spelled differently, but pronounced the same and mean the same thing.
Yeah,
in different alphabets.
If you think about
I don't even know that K would have been in like the Arabic.
Again, it's a translation.
Or Hebrew.
You know.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I just think it's interesting that it's MLCH, and so yeah, I just like milk cows, but.
Yeah, the Merriam-Webster says the meaning of milch cow is a cow in milk. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Or kept for her milk. So I would imagine that in milk means
like they are
milk.
producing milk.
Yes,
Yeah.
as opposed to like a cow in milk.
Yeah, a cow physically in a vat of milk.
Yeah,
or
so like
something,
a steak in
milk steak.
milk steak.
Mm.
Oh, MILCH is the German word for milk.
It's the German word for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And an Old English word for a milk producing cow.
Yeah.
So the translation was done into.
Yeah, it might be like a technical term for a cow for milking is a milch cow.
Yeah, but it probably is pronounced milk.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
So that's interesting.
Sorry, I get off on these tangents
I know.
because I do think it's interesting.
I know.
Sometimes you have to pick those things
So
out of
sometimes the fact that they're spelling milk MILCH is the most interesting thing about that Bible story.
Sometimes it is.
You know?
Yes.
Even though we're dealing with the Ark of the Covenant killing all these people right now.
And golden tumors and mice.
Yeah. Still, milch, right? Now the people of Beth Shemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley. When they looked up and saw the ark, they went with rejoicing to meet it. The cart came into the field of Joshua of Beth Shemesh and stopped there. A large stone was there, so they split up the wood of the cart and offered the cows as a burnt offering to the Lord. The Levites took down the ark of the Lord and the box beside it, in which were the gold objects, and set them on the large stone. Then the people of Beth Shemesh offered burnt offerings and presented sacrifices on that day to the Lord. When the 5 lords of the Philistines saw it, they returned that day to Ekron. So they get the ark back.
Yep.
One thing I thought was interesting, I totally forgot to look this up, but I'm pretty sure Joshua, when he was retiring, they talked about a place where he was settling down and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure that was Beth Shemesh. So that's why they keep saying the field of Joshua at Beth Shemesh.
Oh, I just assumed it was some dude named Joshua who was probably named after Joshua.
Oh, it
Much
could
like
be,
yourself.
but it could be, but I think it was like where he
Gotcha.
supposedly settled down. You know,
I'm just picturing like it literally got over the boundary.
Yeah.
And there were people working out in the field, and so they did their thing, took the cart, smashed it up, killed the cows.
Oh yeah.
And the lords of the Philistines are like standing like on top of a little hill on the other side of the border, just watching to make sure everything goes okay.
Yeah.
All right, the cows are dead.
Right,
they got the box. We
it's
can go
not
now.
coming back.
Right.
Yeah. I thought you were saying like the cart's coming up and people are working out in the fields and they're like, oh.
Well, yes, that too.
It would be weird.
Oh my
like,
God, it's here.
You're in the field and then suddenly the Ark of the fucking Covenant is just wandering up to you.
With a couple of cows in front of it.
Are those milch cows or milk cows?
And there's a big rock there that they just smash the why do you need
a large stone?
Is it so did they smash the cart so that they could build a fire so they could burn the cows?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And it is interesting because I don't think they really said this ever before, but it comes up several times in this book where you have a large stone in order to do sacrifices. Like you need some sort of foundational stone.
Yeah, it's one of those stones that they set, those piles of stones to know where they're at.
Yeah, it's one of the Joshua piles.
Yeah, I mean, if it was his field.
Yeah. This makes it sound like it's one solid stone, though.
Right.
Not one of the memorial piles.
Yeah, probably a big flat one, right? I assume if you're doing offerings on top of it.
Right.
Not
you
a
would
big
think.
Round one.
Yeah.
Stuff keeps sliding off the top of it. The fire won't sit on top of the rock.
Right. That's why only priests are allowed to do it. They know how to do it right. So they get it back, but then we get an interesting little verse here, and it's probably not going to sound that interesting until we talk about it afterwards, but the descendants of Jeconiah did not rejoice with the people of Beth Shemesh when they greeted the ark of the Lord, and he killed 70 men of them. The people mourned because the Lord had made a great slaughter among the people. Then the people of Beth Shemesh said, "Who is able to stand before the Lord, this holy God? To whom shall he go so that we may be rid of him?" So they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kirjath-jearim, saying, "The Philistines have returned the ark of the Lord. Come down and take it up to you." And the people of Kirjath-jearim came and took up the ark of the Lord and brought it to the house of Abinadab on the hill. They consecrated his son Eleazar to have charge of the ark of the Lord. From the day that the ark of the Lord was lodged at Kirjath-jearim, a long time passed, some 20 years, and all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord.
None of that makes sense.
Right. So, if you're following along at home, which I doubt any of you are, you're probably
you mean
this.
like in the Bible?
Yeah. You might realize like that's not what the Bible says. And it turns out, because I started looking at Jeconiah, like what is the story of this person? Who are his descendants? Why do they have an issue with this and all that kind of stuff, right? Like it was a very weird thing. So I Googled Jeconiah, and the only thing I'm seeing is stuff around a king Jeconiah, of an Israelite king from around 600 BCE. And I'm like, well, that's not it, because this is well before that.
Right.
You know, this is before they have any kings. And so I do a little bit more Googling, and I look up the Bible verses, like when you compare different translations for this verse. And most of the different translations have a completely different verse for this.
So this is from the NIV that you're using.
No, I'm actually using a translation called the NRSU, I think, New Revised Standard Edition or something like that.
Okay.
Updated version, something, I don't know. It's got a bunch of letters to it. But in theory, I've found this actually is a little bit more accurate when reading it, like
Gotcha.
less editorial changes, basically, than the NIV has. I ended up going to Chat GPT to figure out what was going on with this, because I've come to realize this is something that Chat GPT does pretty well.
Oh, deep research.
Yeah, when it comes to like what the hell is going on with this, because like there's so much written about the Bible and stuff like that, it's able to actually like give you a good point you in the right direction of what's going on with stuff like this. So this is what it said. The specifics, especially regarding the number of people struck down, are translated differently across versions. The New International Version translates the verse as, "But God struck down some of the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh, putting 70 of them to death because they looked into the ark of the Lord." Yeah, the people mourned because of the heavy blow the Lord had dealt them. Whereas the New Revised Standard Version, NRSV, that's what I use, has a very different translation, which I read. The discrepancy in the translations comes from differences in the manuscripts that the translations are based on, as well as interpretive choices made by the translators. The Hebrew text of this verse is considered difficult and possibly corrupted. The main issue with the phrase that the NIV translates as 70 of them in the Masoretic text, the basis of most of the Old Testament translations, the phrase reads 70 men, 50,000 men, which is why some translations, such as the King James Version, state God struck down 50,070 men. But this number seems extraordinarily high for a town of that time, leading many scholars to consider it an error in the text.
Right.
In the perfect text, by the way.
Yes.
In the unerring Bible. The NRSV's translation of the descendants of Jeconiah is based on a variant reading found in a few Hebrew manuscripts and the Septuagint, which we talked about earlier, is a ancient Greek translation of the Bible. The reference to descendants of Jeconiah is quite peculiar. Was a king of Judah who is mentioned later in the biblical narrative. However, his reign occurred during the Babylonian exile, which is centuries after the events in 1 Samuel. So this is very likely an error or confusion in the manuscripts that the NRSV is based on.
Gotcha.
So no translation is perfect.
Right.
You know?
I do very much enjoy the idea that the reason they died is because they looked into it.
I do too.
Like their faces melted off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's in Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Well, that's where that comes from, right? It's
right.
like, because we haven't really seen that up till now.
When the Ark of the Covenant, I don't know if you had any more to read there. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you. Did they mention when the Ark of the Covenant was created or left by God or however it came into existence, I can't remember, that you weren't allowed to look into it?
Did it say you weren't allowed to?
Yeah, like when Moses.
I don't recall. I don't recall them saying that, but it might have been the thing. They did build it though.
Yeah.
Like they were given specifications on how to build it. So people had to build it.
Right.
You know.
But then later perhaps you couldn't. It is the fucking God box. You made fun of me, but God is in the box.
Yeah. Yeah.
If your faces are melting off, let's say, is what's happening because you looked inside the God box, then something's in there.
Right. Something.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, in theory, it's supposed to be the 10 Commandments.
Right.
Along with, they put some manna in there.
Right.
Too. They stored some manna in there.
Yeah. To me, it sounds like it's a TARDIS or something, or it's a portal to heaven in which God talks through.
Well, it's definitely a portal to heaven in that it will send you to heaven.
Right. Well, I'm just more thinking that, like, you know how very much like you can't listen to God's voice because it'll make your head explode.
Oh, yeah. As we all know.
In some part of the Bible, I must say that.
Nope, that was just dogma.
Well, it might be in the, there's that whole separate thing that Catholics use that talk about all the angels and stuff like that. So I don't know if maybe that's when the Metatron is introduced, but as a character.
I don't think he's in the Bible itself, the Bible proper.
Much like you can't listen to God's voice without your head exploding, you also maybe can't look into heaven without your face melting off whilst in your worldly body.
Yeah. For reasons. Yeah.
The human mind can't comprehend the majestic nature of heaven itself.
Sounds like somebody fucked up when making the human mind then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was God.
Yeah. That's just shoddy craftsmanship, man.
He does think he's better than humans, obviously. He made them. So why would his actual home not be appropriate for humans?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, that makes sense. Right? He doesn't want to actually have them around him.
It does seem like that is the case.
Yeah.
Most of the time, he doesn't seem like he does want humans around.
No.
Oh, yay. We won. Then Samuel said, "Gather all Israel at Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord for you." So they gathered at Mizpah and drew water and poured it out before the Lord. They fasted that day and said, "We have sinned against the Lord." And Samuel judged the Israelites at Mizpah. When the Philistines heard that the Israelites had gathered at Mizpah, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. And when the Israelites heard of it, they were afraid of the Philistines. The Israelites said to Samuel, "Do not cease to cry out to the Lord our God for us, and pray that he may save us from the hand of the Philistines." So Samuel took a sucking lamb and offered it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. Samuel cried out to the Lord for Israel, and the Lord answered him. As Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to attack Israel. But the Lord thundered with a mighty voice that day against the Philistines and threw them into confusion, and they were routed before Israel. And the men of Israel went out of Mizpah and pursued the Philistines and struck them down as far as beyond Beth-kar. So the main thing for this is basically
Philistines are fucking stupid.
I guess that's
what they're selling them as. They spent all of this time getting tumors and having to send the box back, and then the minute
they're at Mizpah.
Yeah, let's go attack them.
Yeah,
what could happen? Seriously,
I'm sure Dagon's got our back now.
Oh my goodness,
we duct taped his hands and head back on.
It's like somebody who's rolling around with smallpox scars being like, vaccines don't work.
Right. I mean, there are people out there like that, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, so they're gonna give it another try. I mean, they like shit when the Israelites had the Ark of the Covenant before they lost.
It's true. It's true, but I mean,
maybe they think oh, now they have the tumors.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you can just do a quick survey of the people and find out that wasn't true.
Right. Yeah.
You were going to say something.
I was just saying the main thing to this is things have turned around for them, and now they've got the Philistines on the run.
Right.
Yes. Because Samuel is saving them.
Yeah, I wondered when he was going to pop back into the story.
Yeah.
Because when they brought the box back, it didn't go to him. And I was like, why? If he's the guy.
Yeah, but he wasn't. Eli was still the guy at that point. And then, Eli, that's right. I'm sorry. Eli had died.
Yes.
But now Samuel is becoming the guy.
Well, and he had already talked to God and everybody knew it.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, they did say that.
Yeah. So why wasn't he the default
person for it to go to?
Here's the God box. You're the guy that talks to God.
Yeah.
Here's his box.
Yeah. You deal with it.
You were raised by Eli. It seems like you would be the next logical place that this thing would go.
Yeah. And it does seem to.
Yeah, eventually after 20 years.
Then Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Jeshanah, and named it Ebenezer. For he said, Thus far, the Lord has helped us." So the Philistines were subdued and did not again enter the territory of Israel. The hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. The towns that the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel, from Ekron to Gath, and Israel recovered their territory from the hand of the Philistines. There was peace also between Israel and the Amorites. Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. He went on a circuit year by year to Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, and he judged Israel in all these places. Then he would come back to Ramah, for his home was there. He administered justice there to Israel and built there an altar to the Lord. So just kind of settling into place for what comes next, which is
the second book of Samuel.
No, this is covering just to the end of chapter
6
or 7. So, yeah.
Okay, so there's still more.
There's substantially more. Yeah. So, but this is laying the groundwork for what's coming next, which is Saul, and then David.
So the book of Samuel, only the first 7 chapters are about Samuel.
So far, yeah. Yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head if, like, maybe another chapter or 2 is only about him, but very soon after this, we get Saul.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was the end of it because in Judges, right, whenever somebody's story ended.
Oh, and they judged Israel all the days of his life.
Right.
It sounds like that, but it's not. Like,
but
Samuel,
if his book is also just not about him, the whole thing, then also that makes sense.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how far into it Samuel gets, because I know he dies by the end of 2 Samuel.
Okay.
But I think it's like right towards the end. So he still lives for quite a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Just not as important of a figure throughout the rest.
Well, he's going to be, because he's the one naming the next king and then the king after that too.
Oh, he names both of them.
And in between those, we get David and Goliath. So we've got some. I feel like the first 2 episodes of 1 Samuel was not interesting stuff. We kind of interesting with the Ark of the Covenant here and causing the plagues and the gold tumors that get made.
Face melting.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah. And just like that mistranslation stuff. Yeah. That's kind of interesting stuff. But like the cool stories. The cool stories like David and Goliath.
Right.
That's still coming up.
King David. And Goliath.
It's before he was king, though.
Yeah.
When David defeated Goliath.
Giant.
Yes. The big guy. I can't imagine that's going to be nearly as cool of a story as people have built it up to be. Though.
I mean, I feel like that's going to be the case because
Samson is like the rare exception where it was like way better than.
And by better, it just means there was way more stuff that was way more interesting than just that his bitch cut. Stop calling women bitches, but
arbitrarily.
Yeah. She cut his hair off. Although she was kind of a bitch because she kept being, and he was stupid.
Yeah.
Because she kept being like, "How do I weaken you?" And he would be like, "You do this."
Why do you keep lying to me about how to weaken you? Yeah.
So she was a bit bitchy.
Yeah.
So
bratty at least.
Yeah.
So that's that.
That's it.
That's it for this episode. And they all live miserably ever after. Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. Help us share the good news by sending this to a friend or leaving a review to help others find us. And if you want to support us with a donation, you can do that on our website at bsfa.cc.
To know me is to know my gas.